And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Hey, anybody out there ever want to write a book? I know I'm one of them. Please welcome Amanda Botfeld, who has a business, Finally Get Your Book Done. Thanks for being here, Amanda. And also, you wrote a book called A Girl's Guide to Poker. So we're going to be talking about all of that in our interview, and glad to have you on our show.
So glad to be here. Thank you for the professional introduction.
But of course, only the best. Let me ask you this. Let's start a little bit from the beginning because you are 29 years old, right? And you've done an awful lot in your 29 years. In fact, you had your first article published by the Wall Street Journal at the age of 23. So let's back it up and talk about that article on the Wall Street Journal. How did you even get that to happen at 23 years of age?
Absolutely. I had no prior connections. It's not like I knew anyone. I wasn't interning for the Wall Street Journal, but I did a lot of writing in college and a student newspaper. And literally every weekend, I would stay up late on a Friday night and I would email op-ed at WSJ.com, op-ed at NewYorkTimes.com, op-ed, the equivalent in all the major newspapers. And it took about a year until one day I opened my inbox and I said, "We love it. We want to run it." And right, yes. And then about a few months later, the LA Times said the same thing about a different piece.
Oh, it's true. Once you get your first,
yes,
that just keeps on rolling because they're like, oh, well, she was published there. What was the article about?
So the totally different subjects. The Wall Street Journal article was actually about Facebook's responsibility in policing hate speech, particularly as it goes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It was an expose that Facebook's doing double standards. It was very serious. And then my LA Times piece was actually on dating in Los Angeles. So it was totally upbeat, fun, cosmopolitan style.
Yeah. And you've also written for the HuffPost, the Huffington Post. What was that one?
That one was more of a regular contributor role. I actually did start that at the end of my senior year of college. So that was something where being editor-in-chief of one of the student newspapers, they were at the time, HuffPost, they were looking for young writers and to support them. And I also think being able to do that, write pieces for them, probably got me a lot more polish that my other pieces got picked up down the road.
But that is what it takes, right? You were saying you were in college and you were writing these pieces. I remember doing the same thing. I was the arts editor of the Daily Targum at Rutgers. And while everybody was out getting like stone drunk and, just sort of stumbling around in the morning, I was up there just sort of, typing away at news articles. And it does take a little of that, right? I mean, you really have to get yourself out there and hustle. Could you tell that to our audience, especially some other young people who are watching this going, oh my God, how did she do it?
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to writing a book, writing an article, it's knowing that what you have to say is important and knowing what you say matters. There were so many times when even before doing Finally Get Your Book Done, where people would say, hey, I want to write an article too, but they don't have enough confidence. Like, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it has something to say. And I think I kind of had the benefit of being young and dumb and just thinking that everything I had to say was brilliant and being like, of course, I'm going to email it to all the major newspapers. But sometimes you need a little bit of that and you need a little bit of, that spirit, right? So I think it was, I don't want to say quantity over quality, but it was that constant, like you said, the hustle again and again and again, going at it. I know I have something worthwhile to say. I have confidence in my convictions. And I'm going to keep speaking until someone hears it.
Well, I like to say to people, no is just a word, right? No is just a word. So if somebody says no, it's like, okay, thank you. And just keep going because somebody eventually said yes, right? Somebody eventually said yes to the Wall Street Journal. And then it just kept spiraling from there. So when people come to you, and by the way, we are going to talk about your book that you wrote because I think it's super cool. Love the reasoning behind this one. But let's talk a little bit first about Finally Get Your Book Done. Yeah. Somebody comes to you, and what is it? Is it an online course? Like, walk me through some of the steps.
Absolutely. So my sessions, they are one-on-one, individualized coaching sessions. What I do is I'll do a consultation call with someone. If we seem like it's a good fit, both for their idea and for our chemistry, then our first step we do is we do what I call a brain dump. So it's when you have this book and you have this idea in your mind, and it's, I've been wanting to say this and that, and this is important, and I need to talk about this time I went to Timbuktu, all these different things. Basically, you just talk. And I'm typing it as you're speaking. So kind of dictating everything so we get it out of the head, out of your head onto the page. So that's session 1. Then our following sessions is I do what we call collaborative editing. So basically what you're doing, once we have that outline, that homework, that loose structure from session 1, then they're writing their chapters and you're reading it aloud to me. And the benefits of that are, one, when you're reading your work for an hour, you're going to get in the zone. You like want to keep writing after it. It keeps it alive.
Yeah.
It adds momentum. It's exciting. 2, you get to go by a neutral sounding board, a third party. A lot of people, when we write books, we make our husbands our editors, right? Or our best friends or our sisters, which is not always the best. It's someone who, I'm an outside party. And obviously I have a lot of writing distinctions. And so as they're reading it aloud to me, we're able to edit in a collaborative fashion, and we're able to say, hey, let's elaborate, let's expand on this paragraph. Let's talk about that time you were here, or this concept's a little murky to me. I'm not an expert in your field. Let's expand, let's go deeper. So I can kind of make pacing edits, and then we can add a little bit more stylistic edits too. And also, because I do it all in Google Docs, as they're reading it aloud, we make edits like, this should be in past tense. This should be a comma. How about a semicolon? So at the same time, it's getting tweaked and, proper punctuation and all those fun things. So that's what it looks like. And it's been really exciting. I think the women that I've worked with, all my clients are women, have found it really meaningful and really rewarding.
Is it generally your clients, do you tend to attract people who have a story from within themselves? Is it fiction? I mean, what are people doing out there? Because everybody has I believe everybody has a story, right? And it's just a matter of which story. Tell me about that.
Sure. I only take nonfiction clients. I don't do fiction. If you want to write about dragons and fairy tales, that's great. That's not my area of expertise. Okay. My background's always in nonfiction writing. My clients are but yeah, I had one woman, she's from the Bahamas, and she wanted to write going through the Bahamas for her son so he could learn about their culture. It was really cute. Yeah, I was like going to the zoo and the dishes and things like that. But and then some clients, like I have a doctor who she's working on people that they don't want to prematurely retire due to workplace injuries. So that's a little bit more technical. And we're kind of doing vignettes of like, here's the situation she's worked through with human resources. So it's not quite as personal, but it's still rooted in reality. And then I'm very excited. Actually, last week, I just signed on with a new client who's very interesting. Her job, she gives sexual harassment seminars and trainings. And she actually counsels people who are accused of indiscretion. So like CEOs of big companies and people on board. So she's been on both sides. And she talks about, again, all these little stories. So it's kind of personal, but it's similar to that doctor I worked with. It's like vignettes, nonfiction zone, but that's kind of the spectrum.
Yeah. So let's say you're somebody like me, right? Like last week we were talking on the phone and I gave you this wide variety of ideas that I had.
Yes.
But I sort of want to collect it into one story. And my situation is, as being, how do you end up honing in so that the whole story makes sense? What do you do? How do you get somebody to focus, right? Focus in so that it all makes sense. That's a hard one.
Absolutely. That is where I come in, before doing this. So in that first session where we create that working outline, throughout our sessions, we kind of revisit it as needed to. I know it sounds dorky. I actually put all their chapters into an Excel spreadsheet. So we not only keep track of the structure, but of the word counts. Because, when I had my own book deal, I needed to hit a certain target. And so we don't want things to get wonky. We don't want like your one chapter to be 8,000 words and your other one's 800, unless you're trying to make it choppy. So after we kind of have our chapters together, that's really my job, is where we kind of tailor and say, like, let's balance it out in our outline as well.
How long does it take to, I don't like this word average, but how long does it take to write the average book? If you're
writing it, that woman who wanted to write a children's book, that was 1 month, easy peasy. Yeah, if you want to, generally when you're signing a regular book deal, like mine, you're wanting to hit between around 45,000 to 60,000 words.
Hmm.
So it'll depend on your pace a little bit, but for if you're kind of a consistent, good at doing your homework, even like I have one client, I think she's a really good average example. She writes about 3 to 4 pages a week. And
Oh,
yeah, and that's about 7 months for hers, which is actually
wow.
close to how long my book took. And mine was just over 45,000 words. Mine, I was writing in a little bit more normal book because, there's new ebooks and sometimes people want to write like a 20-minute book to promote their business or their brand. It doesn't need to be the next great American novel. But if you want something to be more standard, you want to hit that 200 pages, I would say anywhere between, let's say, 5 to 8 months to be a little bit of a wide range.
Okay. And then what, right? You've got the book done. Do you help people promote it? Do you tell them where to go? Publishers? Then what's the next step?
Right. So my background is in writing. I'm not a PR agent, but we do always self-publish. We make sure to get your own ISBN number, make sure to get it on Amazon. You can also I've not only had clients who do their own audiobooks, but actually who I've referred them to people who can read their audiobooks aloud if they want a professional as well. And we can have that uploaded to Amazon. But for the most part, whenever I sign someone on, I say the best reason to write a book is not because you think it's going to, make you an overnight celebrity, but it's because you've got a story in your heart, you've got a story in your head, and you can't live with yourself unless it's on the page. So marketing, promotion, that's on you. Got to do podcasts like this. I did a whole podcast tour promoting my book, but my background and expertise is in writing. And I really, really believe that if you can speak well, you can write well. And so my job is to make sure that when it comes to the promotional phase, that you have the best quality work possible.
Before we get into your book, what about a screenplay? Let's say you see this as a show in theaters or on the big screen. Do you help people do that as well?
I've actually written 3 screenplays myself. And I did have, because originally that was what I thought I was going to do. Before I was doing newspapers and journalism, I started in college in the film and television. I'm from Los Angeles. I liked writing. I thought I was going to be a screenplay writer. I actually originally I thought I was going to go to film school. I changed my mind, but I got a letter of recommendation from the Devil Wears Prada because I sent in my screenplays. I'm like, you have to read this.
Wow.
Yes. So I do have quite, like you have all your notepads and books. I have so many screenwriting structure books annotated to the teeth. So absolutely. And I've gotten that question before. If people want to do, I have worked with someone that we made a short film. We made the screenplay for that before. So that was about a 10-20 minute film. The structure of it, I'm not sure how, if it got produced, but we did do it together. So do I feel like I could help someone with the screenwriting space? Absolutely.
Wow. Now let's get into your book, A Girl's Guide to Poker. I love this book. Why did you write this thing? Did you grow up playing poker? And why A Girl's Guide? I mean, I could almost answer that, right? Because not enough women are out there playing poker.
Exactly. Not enough women are out there playing poker, right? I thought I knew a little bit. My dad likes to play poker. And so I was 23. I was living in, or 24, 23, 24. I was living in DC. I was working as a political newsletter writer. They opened up a new casino there. And I thought, I'm going to be this rock star poker player like my father. And I was so bad that this guy, and I was so bad that this guy turns to me at the table and he says, "You played that hand terribly." And I said, "How so?" And he said, "Well, for starters, I could see your cards." So I didn't even know how to hold my cards right. That's how bad I was. And
Girl, that's terrible. That is just, come on. We all know to hide them a little bit. I mean, come on. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you really were
I was a beginner. I just knew the rankings. I knew the hand rankings, but I didn't know anything more than a video poker slot machine. So I went to try to find some books to learn how to play. And I remember I called up all these bookstores in Washington, D.C. where I was living, and they all thought I was crazy, book on poker. So I found a strip mall 45 minutes away in Virginia, and I got a couple poker books, and they were all way too hard for me to understand. They
Yeah,
were
they are
drier
hard.
than, yeah, they were like math textbooks. They were really boring. And so at the time, I was already working as a writer. It was a goal of mine to get into the book writing space. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write the book that I want. And I kind of took it on as a writing challenge. And it was about a year, maybe not even quite a year later, when I signed the book deal with the world's largest poker book publisher, D&B Poker. Yeah.
This is a great book, though, because I love the illustrations, or should I say the photos in them. Let's face it, a book like this, you need good photos because it also breaks up the page. And I say that for real because it's tough to learn poker, but you break it down step by step. You make it fun. You make it interesting. I don't know if anybody could see, like, just something like that, right? Where to
Yeah.
start. Okay. And I love the photo, the woman with a blindfold. It's like, where do I start? I'm blindfolded. I don't know what I'm doing. And you walk us through the steps with that. Everything from how to hold your cards to, just some of the skill involved. Now, I found that number. I think it's 95% are men who play poker.
Yeah, it's
ladies.
actually 96%. And believe it or not, at the World Series Poker main event, it's declining. It used to be 5%. Now it's 4%.
Okay,
So,
girls, ladies, we got to get this book. We got to get out there and we got to play some poker. And we have to, participate in some of these tournaments. We really do. This is the one that'll get you there. Do you gamble?
I only play poker. So
you only play poker.
I only play poker. I don't do anything else. On the actual writing of the book, I had 2 goals. One,
yeah,
I wanted every paragraph to have a punchline. So there's a joke like every 3 lines.
Yeah.
Which was a unique writing challenge. And then 2, when I was reading, the classic reference series, the For Dummies books, they said I was really struck by this and really inspired by this. It said, even though obviously you want to read the book from start to finish, it's designed where you can open the book at any point and jump right in. So maybe you want to skip to this part or skip to that. Maybe you want to skip to body language, and tells and all those fun things in poker. Maybe you don't care about math and percentages. So that's how I wanted to design my book as well, as a true reference book where you can just open it up to any page and you can jump right in and you can also get a laugh.
What do you need to be a good poker player? Because you have to have something going on where you'll have success. What's that?
What do you need to be a good poker player?
Like, do you need to be good at math?
You can get around the math if you memorize a lot. You don't have to calculate. So you don't necessarily, I'm a writing person, not a math person. What you really need is you need to be able to coordinate moving parts, because you're looking at a lot of different things. You're like, what's my hand? What's their hand? How do they interact? How many chips are in the middle? If you are good at math, you'll know your odds and probabilities. What are the stack sizes? So you can't really have tunnel vision. You need to be someone which is why I think women would be fantastic getting to the space, because there's a lot of science behind women being great multitaskers. So really, I think you need to be able to think with synthesis and in multiple directions.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge all of my listeners. Pick up this book, A Girl's Guide to Poker. We need to get some more poker games going, ladies. We really do. Some poker clubs, some poker everything. You need to start this. You really do, Amanda. We have to get more women out there in this space, because you're right. And it keeps us sharp when we do something like this, sharp and focused and fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I teach classes for a women's poker organization, Poker Power. And most of their base is actually corporate women. So they go to major companies. I actually was teaching one of the vice presidents of Goldman Sachs how to play poker, and brilliant woman, doesn't know that Queen 3 is a bad hand. That's okay. But it's so wonderful when you see these really, really intelligent, sharp women and the kinds of questions they ask. It's a mind game. It's very intriguing. And I think that's why I was so intrigued by it when I started, as I found it challenging and intellectually provocative.
Wonderful. So what is next for you? Sorry about the dog. I think for some reason, this is when my Amazon guy loves to come sometimes on Wednesdays. So my apologies. Maybe there's a couple of your books in the package for me, but Apologies, that's Leonardo. So please, everybody say hi to Leo. What is next for you, though? I know that you've got the writing class. I love that. And is it one-on-one, or do you do groups, or how does that work?
One-on-one.
One-on-one.
Yes.
So you've got that. You've got this book. And you haven't even been out of college that long. So what's next?
What's next? Well, I just got married. We'll have our year anniversary this month. Yes. But for me, it's whenever you take on a new client, it's like a whole new world. You know, when I finished my book, I was crying. I have clients who they're 2 months, so they're just halfway in their book and they're already getting emotional. It's such a journey. And it's really meaningful to help women get their books done, hear their voices. So I'm doing that. And I actually, for the World Poker Tour, I'm going to be helping write some of their advertisements and help produce content to actually get more women in space.
Oh, that's wonderful. Amanda, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Amanda Botfeld, here we go. A Girl's Guide to Poker. Any final words you want to tell people? You just want to invite them into the space to learn poker and tell their story too. You don't have to necessarily want to have it published, right? But how great to have our story down in writing, even to pass something down to our kids, right?
Exactly. And that's what most of my clients do. So I have one client. Yes, that's their incentive, because whether it's self-published or traditionally published, if you're not big and famous with a bunch of followers, it's going to be hard to sell a bunch of copies of your book. That doesn't mean it's not worth writing. So I have one client, she's signing on her new house, right? This is the big goal for her. And you know, it's good to have millennial women as homeowners. But anyways, and her goal, she wants her book to be finished by the end of the year. And she wants it to be a coffee table book when she walks in. So,
I love it.
Isn't that great? Like in her home, coffee table book, people can see, you know, hers is, I think I mentioned on our call, she traveled the world helping in animal sanctuaries and all the things that she learned doing that in that space. Yeah, really neat. Because people say, like, that's the example of someone who her life's very interesting and adventurous. And they say, you should write a book on it. And so she actually is now. She's actually getting her book done, and she's going to have that whole adventure on her coffee table, right there for her mom, friends, family, everyone to see, everyone to read. Again, I'm really excited about that children's book with that woman who's, again, she's from the Bahamas, and she's doing this as a gift to her son. And she actually wants to write another one now because she's had such a great experience. And that's what I think is really beautiful. You know, even if it's for your family, for your space, I think it's something that you can always have. You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, Amanda Botfeld. A Girl's Guide to Poker. Also, finally get your book done. Look her up. I'm sure you could find her very easily. Find the book on Amazon. And then your website is your name.
Finallygetyourbookdone.com. Yes.
Finallygetyourbookdone.com. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll be calling you myself, because you gave me some great tips, and you might be able to sort of hone in on what it is that I'm looking to write as well, and finally get that done. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on our show today, Deborah Kobylt Live. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and then as an audio podcast on just about any podcast platform. You'll find us, Deborah Kobylt Live. Just look us up. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.